The evidence seems to indicate that you're watching Dolly Vision.
Topping up, Dolly Vision's dreaming real. True crime scene blast feels so unreal. YouTube madness like share, subscribe. Jack's on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby missing shadows crawl? People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, best around town known. Dolly Vision headlines, King of Peace. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost soul shouting, echoes in the night. Rock the truth while live on their light. Topping up, Dolly Vision's dreaming real. True crime scene blast feels so unreal. YouTube madness like share, subscribe. Jack's on fire, burning the world's fire. Where's the baby missing shadows crawl? People whisper footsteps down the hall. Fingerprints of the dead, cold as stone. He's got the scoop, best around town known. Dolly Vision headlines, King of Peace. Truth unravels, crackling through the heat. Lost soul shouting, echoes in the night. Rock the truth while live on air light.
Sorry about that. I was muted. What's up, guys? It's Dolly back in the house again tonight. It is late night here on the East Coast. It is 1:30 in the morning. So I don't know if my notifications went out or not, but who the hell cares? I got a little bit of time to kill with you tonight, and I wanted to discuss some true crime before I hit the bed. But of course, for all you guys that are here, which there's only 100 and some of you in the room night, some nights I like it nice and quiet and not a lot of people, not a whole lot of chaos. So I get to see you guys in the chat room. It reminds me of the old days, okay? The old days where I could see what everybody was saying and have actual one-on-one conversations with you. So sometimes I think it's good to have a nice, quiet show. But if you are here, go ahead and like the video for me. And of course, if you're here late night with me this late, you're already subbed up. You're probably already a member. And I want to thank each and every one of you guys. Okay. So, today a lot of stuff was coming out in the Karen Reed case because today is the day that they start picking the jury. All right. Now, here on Dolly Vision, we stick to our main stories that we like to cover because we like to see things to the very end. So we don't cover a million things at one time. We stick to about 5 or 6 cases and we let those play out, and then we add to it. Like here shortly I will be covering the Lori Vallow case, and there's a lot of people hitting me up with other cases to cover, but I can only cover really one case, like court case at a time, like stream it wise. I can't stream multiple cases in a day, it just because we only got one channel here. So with everything being delayed in the Karen Reed trial because they're expecting it to take a month to pick the jury, which gives us a little bit of time to cover Lori Vallow, the Doomsday Mom, which I really wanted to cover that case anyway, and I didn't know if I would be able to because of the Karen Reed case. As you guys do know, I will be in Boston, me and PJ. PJ has already took the time off for work. We actually had to move it back because we was actually going to be there on the 10th. Okay, but it looks like they're not going to have the jury picked by the 10th. So there's no reason for us to be there, right? So we just want to be there to support John O'Keefe and his family because so many people, let's be honest, have been giving the O'Keefe family a really hard time. Now, I've always said I don't hate Karen Reed supporters. I believe the justice system will do what the justice system does, and the odds are not in her favor, and things are not looking good for Karen Reed in the lead up to the jury selection of this trial. 85% of times when people are retried, they are convicted. 85%. So statistically, she only has a 15% chance of actually walking. The last trial ended in a mistrial. And today, in the Karen Reed murder retrial, judge rules on third-party defense. And we're going to watch a little video from Court TV because I think they can explain this a little bit better than I can. And then, of course, we're going to discuss what I think this means for Karen Reed. You know, Karen Reed said some pretty things, bad things that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. And I seen a creator today, Boundless Millennial, was speaking on it. And, you know, Karen Reed did that documentary. Before we get into this video on Court TV, she did that documentary, and it was really damaging to Karen Reed because basically she confessed in that documentary. If you listen to what she said, and I know Karen Reed supporters, you're going to go, Dolly, you full of crap. She didn't confess, right? She absolutely did. She said she confessed to drinking and driving and being intoxicated. She absolutely confessed to that. But she said one other thing that was really damaging that couldn't be true unless she had been to the crime scene prior to finding John O'Keefe. Okay. And you know, I said something about this when she said it in the documentary, that she pulled a piece of glass out of John's face and it started to gush blood. Okay. But according to the paramedics, when they got there, John had no heartbeat. Okay. Which I always thought John was alive. But it apparently John wasn't alive and he didn't have any heartbeat. And when she pulled this glass out of his face, it started gushing blood. Now, if your heart is not pumping, you will not gush blood. Okay? You just won't. And it makes it sound like Karen was there before she returned with Jen McCabe and John's friend. Okay? So John's friend really has no reason to lie because John's friend wasn't in the house on Fairview. Okay? This was one of John's actual friends that Karen called and got to go look for John and Jen McCabe. So to me, it's pretty much a confession. Okay? That she confessed to being drinking and driving and basically said she possibly could have hit John and that she poured glass out his face and it was gushing blood, which is all totally new. But, you know, they've been trying to paint this conspiracy that John O'Keefe was murdered by multiple people in the house, which none of these people have an alibi. I mean, a motive for killing John O'Keefe. They've tried to accuse the Alberts, Colin, you know, saying this teenage boy beat up a grown-ass man, beat him to death, and drug him outside. They tried to say Chloe did it. Chloe attacked him. But all these things are getting shot out the water a little bit at a time. So now they're not going to be able to accuse Colin. But let's just jump into this video from Court TV. Let them explain it, and then I'll just discuss it with you guys. All right? Let me share this with you. Let's add this to the stream. Let's blow this up. And let's get right into it.
All right, we're going to turn now to Dedham, Massachusetts, where we have some breaking news ahead of the murder retrial for defendant Karen Reed.
She stands accused of hitting her Boston police officer boyfriend John O'Keefe with her SUV and then leaving him to die in a snowstorm in 2022.
And joining us live now with that breaking news is Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson. Matt, great to see you as always. Now we hear the judge has officially ruled on that third-party defense, big part of this case. What can you tell us?
This is the ruling that we were waiting for. It's a massive ruling there out of Dedham. And it's a split ruling, one that impacts the entire retrial and the defense strategy. Judge Beverly Cannoni ruling that the third-party defense for Colin Albert is denied because the defense failed to show any evidence that Colin had any, quote, motive, intent, and opportunity to kill John O'Keefe.
Okay, let me pause that right there. So everybody online in these Karen Reed forum groups, they're accusing Colin, this young man right here. He was able to beat up a full-grown ass man that was a police officer. And you know, when you go through the police academy, they train you in self-defense. So John took self-defense classes. Okay, it's part of his training in the police force is to deal with suspects. And this dude had no motive, no reason, none of these things to kill John O'Keefe. Neither did any of the people, right? I don't believe that there was really a motive involved in this at all. I believe it was a tragic accident because you don't drink and drive, okay? It's dangerous. You can hurt yourself or you can hurt other people. And I believe it was a tragic accident, but even though I say it's an accident, it's still second-degree murder because when you get behind the wheel of a car driving and you're intoxicated, there's no such thing as an accident because you shouldn't have been driving that vehicle whatsoever. Okay?
And there was no evidence ever presented at trial to show that he was at 34 Fairview at the same time John O'Keefe was at the home. But the defense can introduce evidence of third party with Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Take a listen to these arguments about this earlier this month.
The defense in this case has more evidence of third-party culprits than the defense did in Finney. We're not asking this court to allow into evidence hearsay, as was admissible in Finney. We're solely seeking to introduce the crux of a third-party culprit defense, which is evidence of motive, opportunity, and means, all of which Brian Albert, Brian Higgins, and Colin Albert had.
There is no motive. There is no motive. To suggest that one person was pining, although the text messages don't show that, they both stopped corresponding with each other days before. To suggest that Mr. Albert is friends with Mr. Higgins and therefore he is bootstrapped into a conspiracy to kill with no evidence. There is no opportunity to murder John O'Keefe when all the evidence points to him dying on the front lawn from an alleged collision.
Hank the Tank is crushing it. I mean, he just in the build-up, in the motion hearings. Sherry, thank you so much for being a member for 1 month. Just in the motion hearings leading up to this, Hank the Tank has been crushing it, right? And you can see the fear in the Turtle Riders, right? We're the Turtle Gang, not to be confused with the Turtle Riders. You can see the fear in them, right? They hate Dolly. They hate me. Okay. Like I go into one of the chats that, you know, support Karen Reed and it just instantly goes to attack me because, you know, I have a different opinion than these people. So apparently, you know, I'm all these bad names because I don't agree with what they're saying. I have a difference in opinion. Now, you know, these people are supposed to be adults and they think they're so intelligent, but it shows you how they handle things when somebody has a different opinion than them, that they get all angry and mad. So, you know, I go in there like like blowing smoke in a beehive. I go in, Sherry, thank you for gifting those memberships. I go in and just make people mad and then I leave. I don't even really stick around long enough to hear what bad things they have to say about me. I just go in there and piss them all off and then I bounce out like I did tonight, right? So, but for the little bit of time I'm in there, you know, they try to get their blows in and I let them know, hey, I'm just here to make you mad, piss you off a little bit because y'all people get so butthurt so easy and y'all so don't want to hear nobody else's opinion. It's like a big old echo chamber in some of these rooms. Now, there's people in here right now that think Karen Reed is innocent, and that's perfectly fine. We're all adults here. We can discuss it as adults. And, you know, I don't hate you. I'm not mad at you. You are entitled to your opinion. I'm never going to force my opinion on you. Okay. Right. Sassy says, I'm not mad. I just believe she is innocent. And that's perfectly understandable, Sassy. I'm not mad at you for thinking that, right? I wouldn't sit here and call you names or be mean to you or try to belittle you because you have a difference in opinion than me. That just shows right there that, you know, we're adults. We sometimes in life we have to agree to disagree on things, right? So, and when I say I make people mad, it's when I go into these rooms that are echo chambers. They don't want to hear other people's opinions. If you're not pro Karen Reed, you are the enemy, right? What happened to having an opinion that everybody's opinion matters, right? That's where I come from. I believe everybody's opinion matters. Your opinion is just as valuable, Sassy, as my opinion is. I like you. You're hilarious. I like that you put your time into helping people. Thank you. I try to do my best to help as many people as I can along the way, you know, on this journey we call life. And I enjoy helping people. You know, it makes me feel warm inside, and I hope it makes the people that I help feel the same way, right? I think there needs to be more good in the world. We live in a terrible place where bad stuff happens all the time. So if you can bring a little joy to the world, do your best to do. I encourage everybody to do that. And I tell people this, like, you know, I wasn't always the best person in the world. I've done a lot of bad stuff in my life. Not terribly bad, like nothing horrible, but just not the best things. And as I've gotten older, I think of it as let me make right some of my wrongs and try to be a better person. And plus, as I've gotten older, I've gotten super soft. I used to be a tough dude, right? Well, I thought I was tough, you know, tough acting. But these days, I just paused it. I'm super soft. I care about way more people probably than I ever have. I'm way more forgiving, more understanding. No sound, Dolly. I know, I got the sound off. Or no sound for me. How old am I? I am 50 years old. I just turned 50 this year. Well, I know I'll be 51 this year. So, and then, you know, I had a little scare, you know, right around my birthday. Dolly's a softie. These days I am. I realize I'm a softie. Okay. I get it. But like I said, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm not the judge or the jury of Karen Reed. Okay. I can't make the decision what's going to happen to Karen. It's not me. So when people get mad at me, I'm like, I don't know what you're getting mad at me for. I'm not on the jury. I'm not the judge. I just give my opinion, right? And we got a room to discuss things in. This is what this channel mostly is about, is discussing true crime cases. So I don't want people to be mean to people when they come in here and say, I think Karen Reed's innocent. You don't have to agree with me on this channel. I want everybody to understand that. Just because my opinion is one way, yours don't have to be that way. Okay? I'm not here to brainwash you, to push my beliefs onto you. You can totally disagree with everything I say and still be perfectly fine in this room. I don't want nobody to be mean to each other. No, nothing. We're all adults. I look at my analytics. I don't have one person under 18 that watches me. Okay? Unless it's a kid watching with their mom at home. So there should be no little kid shit in my room. People shouldn't be getting attacked because they believe something different. Then we discuss those things. And maybe people that think she's innocent, y'all can convince me that she's innocent. And maybe people that think she's guilty can convince people that think she's innocent that she's guilty. It's a big discussion. And that's the way I like to keep everything as peaceful and calm. And people run their rooms different ways, right? If you go into a room and you're being attacked because of your opinion, of course, I instigate because I'm a little bit of an asshole sometimes, right? And I know people are easy to get mad, and I can tell what people or easily going to get mad. And I do it purposely, right? So I can laugh, because see, people will start calling me names, but I know they're going to do that, right? So I go in these rooms to laugh, because I know within a matter of a couple sentences, I'm going to stir them up like a bee's nest, right? And then they're going to be coming at me, and then it don't matter what the creator's talking about, because then it ain't about that anymore. It's about me being in the room, right? So I do it just being, I don't know, just being an asshole sometimes, right? Just to stir people up. But I still don't try to push my beliefs on them people. I just give my opinion, that, hey, I think Hank the Tank is crushing in this case, and they don't want to hear that, but he is. He's doing a really good job. The last prosecutor, what was it, Lowley? He was terrible. He was absolutely horrible. I mean, you could have murdered 37 people, and if this dude tried to prosecute you, you would walk, okay? I mean, he was horrible prosecutor. I mean, just the worst. He was so boring to listen to, and he was just so all over the place. But I don't even think he knew where he was at, okay? Lowley sucked. He did. He was terrible. Oh my God. That's the reason it ended in a hung jury, is because Lowley was horrible. Okay. That's the only thing I agree with the Karen Reed supporters, as the prosecutor sucked ass. Okay. He sucked ass, but Hank the Tank don't. Okay. Some people call him different things. I've seen Hank the Dank Hank, or just different names people call him. But I think Hank the Tank is going to stick, especially when I get out there giving away Hank the Tank t-shirts. Hank the Tank will run it down. And he has been doing a really good job of that on this retrial lead up in these motion hearings. And if the trial goes anything like the motion hearings, I have a lot of faith in Hank the Tank that he's going to get a conviction of Karen Reed. Was the case handled the best? Absolutely not. I agree with the Turtle Riders and the Karen Reed supporters on that this case could have been handled better. The police could have been a little more professional in this, because they said some pretty terrible things about nudes and things like that, which probably was really unprofessional and probably didn't need to be said. And it makes them look bad, as, but are they committing a conspiracy because they say something pervy as a man? Okay. Some people are just pervy, right? They say pervy things, like we can use a certain missing kid's father as an example of that, right? And it's inappropriate, and it's probably not the best thing to say, like, yeah, I've been looking through her phone, I ain't found no nudes yet, or say something bad about her coochie, or it's and plus, the officer that did that, he paid the price. He got fired from his job for being unprofessional. Now, he didn't get fired from his job for committing conspiracy and trying to frame Karen Reed. He got fired because he was an unprofessional officer. Proctor, okay? He can be unprofessional and Karen still be guilty. But I agree with some of them that this police could have been a little bit better. They could have did a little bit better job. Lally question, did you see snow? Lally was terrible, okay? But I think Hank the Tank has this under control. He's well spoken, okay? He's a little boring. I ain't gonna lie, he's a little bit boring, but he's well spoken, and he drives his point home good. Like, you understand what he's doing. Lally, you couldn't understand where the hell he was going with it. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't. Proctor is a punk. He was really unprofessional, and he paid the price for that. You know what I'm saying? And that helped Karen in the first case. I don't think it's going to help Karen as much in this case. At that time, the first case went on, we had this federal investigation that was going on into the police. Now that federal investigation has been closed, and there was no charges brought upon any of these police. So that means the feds didn't find what the police were doing was corrupt or illegal. So you can't really use that corrupt police and the feds are coming in. There may be some arrests. Well, now we know that's not true, right? We also know House Long to Die in the Cold didn't happen at 2:30 in the morning. It happened at 6, just like Jim McCabe said. We know them ain't dog bites on John's arm. They're more consistent with a broken tail light. That they have molded Chloe's teeth. Free Chloe, stop blaming that dog. And these are not going to match the marks on John O'Keefe's arm. Not only that, we've already seen Hank the Tank destroy, absolutely obliterate the dog bite expert. Now, if they don't change that dog bite expert up and this woman comes into court, Hank the Tank is going to mow her down in reverse and then drive back forward right over it. So a lot of this conspiracy, Colin Albert did it, it's been shot out the water. We hear that today. So you're going to blame people that have no motive to kill John O'Keefe when all signs show that he died on the lawn of that house. Injuries consistent with Karen Reed striking him with a vehicle, taillight pieces on his clothing, his DNA found on the bumper of that car, Karen Reed admitting that she was drunk, intoxicated, don't know if she hit him or not. Okay, she's unsure. Right? Did I hit him? Could I hit him? Maybe I hit him. She was so intoxicated, she don't know. But she did openly admit in the documentary that she was intoxicated. Not only was she drinking, but she was drinking doubles. I was surprised she said that because, we had some of her supporters coming here, Baby Gap, hammered drunk, trying to defend this lady. And, Dolly just destroyed him. I backed over him like Hank the Tank, right? Just clowned him, and he just sounded ignorant and drunk and stupid. So things have changed a lot since the first case. And I think we're going to see this, and I think justice will be served. Okay. Oh my God, that was funny AF. Yeah, if you wanted to defend somebody, he should have came in here sober. He gives over his channel. He defends Karen every day, right? And he does a decent job when he's sober at defending her. But he just picked the wrong time to come here and try to do it, right? Because he drank more than Karen Reed did, right? He drank more than Karen Reed did. And Karen Reed admitted to drinking these doubles. And my biggest thing is, man, her trying to cheat on John and how she did the kids. In her spokesperson that she was paying to harass people and boo the mother of John O'Keefe. That's where I drew the line right there. When they booed John O'Keefe's mama. Right, John O'Keefe is the victim. His mother is a victim. They literally booed his mama. And at that point, I lost a lot of respect for the Karen Reed supporters. Okay, because, I met a lot of them out there when I was there. They got molds of Chloe's teeth, Dolly good. And a lot of the people were, I think, are great people. They're a little misinformed. If you I know why they're out there. They do truly support Karen Reed, and I can understand that. You have the right to your opinion, right? And I think a lot of them are good people. I just think they got bad information, and they believed it. And a lot of that crowd is bigger on the conspiracy side of things to where, let's listen. Me and PJ, we're two different people, right? PJ loves conspiracy. She believes chemtrails. Every conspiracy you can think of, PJ believes. And I love her to death. Me, I don't believe none of that shit, right? I don't believe none of it. But I just believe that their crowd is more of a people that are more willing to believe these conspiracies, right? which ain't nothing wrong with. A lot of people believe these conspiracies. There's people out here right now that think the earth is flat. Okay. We may have a flat earther in this chat room right now. I'm not for sure, right? But there's these conspiracy people are out there, and I believe that they do truly believe that Karen Reed is innocent because they believe that these conspiracies are really happening. But when you build a house of cards, you would have to keep all them people quiet and all those people from blackmailing each other. Okay. There's no way of doing that. Okay. There's no way of doing that. Let's finish this video up because I'm getting a little too far into it. Facts are not conspiracies. Well, just because you say something's factual, don't make it factual. Okay. A lot of people want to say that she's factually innocent. Well, I mean, I can step here and say she's factually guilty. See where we get to? We get to this crossroads, right? Because there's people that say she's factually guilty, and there's people that say she's factually innocent. So which one? Chemtrails are factual. So which one is it? Right? And I'm here to discuss that with you guys, not fight with you guys about it. Right? Because listen, none of us are on the jury. We're not going to decide Karen Reed's fate. Right? There's no reason for us to hate each other or to be mad at each other. That's why I let Baby Gap on even though he was drunk. I was like, I don't hate the guy. Right? Let's discuss it. Maybe he'll, but he was a little too far gone to discuss. All he did was make her look bad. I like to have really good discussions, right, on the same playing field. That night, in his defense, he was drunk. Okay. He couldn't put up a good fight because he was intoxicated. And the same thing with Karen. She was intoxicated. He tried to say that she wasn't drinking. And then the next night, she comes on to the live stream, not live stream, but to the documentary on the ID channel. And she says she was drinking. She had at least 6 drinks and they were doubles. So she was buying a drink, a mixed drink, and a shot and pouring the shots into it. She is a factual liar. Well, she told the truth about that one, I think. And she was drinking. She didn't remember. Right? She didn't remember leaving the watering hole. Okay? She didn't remember none of that stuff. So that's factual. Okay? At least that's what she said. So people don't want you using Karen Reed's own words when you talk to them, right? For people that support Karen Reed, like, they'll get mad at me, and I'm just saying what Karen Reed said. Now, you can't be mad at me for stuff that come out of this woman's mouth. Like, I didn't say these things. She said these things. Like the pulling the glass out of his face and things like that. And like, if you go right now and tell Karen Reed supporter she was drinking and she was drunk, they'd be like, no, she wasn't. She got those drinks for other people. But she sat right there on the ID channel and said she had 6 drinks and they were doubles. You know what 6 doubles would do to Dolly? I'd run everybody over in Virginia. You wouldn't want to be on the road. There'd be so many dead people. I would drive my car through your house. Okay. 6 doubles. I ain't a big drinker though. So that is a lot. That is a lot. I think if I drink 2 doubles, I'm passing out. You know what I'm saying? I just honestly, I went out with PJ on Valentine's Day. It's the last day I drank. Okay. And I had 2 girly drinks. We went to this really nice restaurant for Valentine's Day. And PJ was driving. So I figured, hey, I'll have me a couple little drinks. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a little nice place. And I got some, what was it? It was like strawberry lemonade, but it was a little mixed drink. And they were girly drinks, right? And that's the ones that are worse. Them girly drinks, because they taste really good, right? But they don't taste like alcohol. Right, so they taste all girly, like sweet, and I drank 2 of them. The first one I drank, I looked at PJ. I was like, I don't think there's no alcohol in this drink. So I ordered a second one, and we eat dinner. I drink the second drink. I drink the second one kind of fast, And I didn't really feel it, right? Until I went to stand up. When I went to stand up, I kind of stumbled a little bit. And I was like, damn, them drinks hit me a little bit harder than I thought, right? They were all drunk. That is true. But all of them didn't run over John O'Keefe. Only Karen did. Just because all of them was drunk don't mean Karen ain't guilty. Okay? The whole bar was drinking. The whole bar didn't run over John O'Keefe, right? They were all drinking. Well, give them a DUI. They didn't all run over John O'Keefe. Okay. I don't have any problem with if you went and charged all of them with DUI that was on camera seen driving, right? No problem whatsoever. But they didn't hit John O'Keefe. Their taillights ain't missing. Brian Higgins was drunk too. That's fine. You could have been drunk. It don't matter. You didn't hit him. Okay? His DNA ain't on your taillight. It ain't on your bumper of your car. You wasn't the last one with him. You know, you wasn't the one saying, did I hit him? Could I hit him? Maybe I hit him. In my drunken stupor, did I back into him and he get incapacitated and lay there and die? She said that. That's her own words, guys. I'm not making anything up. All them were drunk. That don't matter if the whole fucking planet was drunk. Everybody didn't run them over. Okay. Only she did. I hope. Okay. Maybe they took turns running them over at this point. That'd be a better defense. They were all drunk. They all ran them over. We don't know how drunk they were, right? We don't know. They didn't say. They didn't get breathalyzed. Did they have enough to be over the limit? I don't know. But we know Karen did. She said she had 6 drinks doubles. Am I making that up? Right? I'm not making that up. I'm not coming up here making up stuff on Karen Reed or anything. I'm just stating what she has said. Factually, okay? Factually, she said. Like, 7 or 8 whiskeys for Higgins. Okay. Is any DNA on Higgins' car? On his bumper? Okay. You got to remember the broken glass that she picked out of John's face was also on her bumper. Factual. Okay, factual. And she clearly said she was intoxicated. So to me, it points to Karen Reed. You know, she said that she was mad in 2 minutes. She had inconsistent statements. She said she never said she could have hit him, and she absolutely did. You know, she added to the story with the picking the glass out of his face. And, you know, he's buried in snow. According to a lot of Karen Reed supporters, it was barely snowing. But there was a snow plow out that night in blizzard conditions. Show me a blizzard it's barely snowing. Okay, that don't even go together. It's barely snowing, but it's a fucking blizzard. A blizzard, in the definition of a blizzard, means heavy snow. You know, usually in blizzards are whiteout conditions. Now, I can tell you now that I have been to Denham, Canton, Boston, and the last time I went, it was snowing its ass off. Listen, I'm from Virginia. You get a little bit of snow here. Boston area, Massachusetts, it snows like a whole different realm of snowing. I mean, it's snow, like whiteout and blizzard, snowing its ass off, right? It don't snow like that here in Virginia. We did have a big snow that just came through a little while back, but that big snow here is like their little snow, right? Because they're used to the snow. They're used to fucking feet of snow falling. Right here in Virginia, we're not quite used to that. But Karen knew where he was at. Okay, she knew where he was at in whiteout conditions and blizzard conditions. She's seen him in the dark, and they couldn't even see John. Okay, and the reason that is she knew where John was at. Did she hit him on purpose? I don't know. There's no proof that she hit John on purpose. You know, from the video, it looked like they were getting along just fine at the bar, even though they had been fighting previously. And look what she was saying to John. I hate you. You're a fucking pervert. You're this, you're that. I mean, she was saying horrible stuff on them messages. And people act like she's a good person. How could she say those things to somebody apparently she's supposed to love, but never shed one tear for him and condones attacking his mother, right? Even in the documentary, she says something slick about his mother. Well, she said he thought, and she makes his face. Karen's facial expressions are what's going to get her convicted, I believe. Is she can't help it. She got a little bit of that crazy in her, right? And women, y'all know y'all can be a little crazy sometimes, right? I think this lady's a little crazy a lot. And the kid said that, you know, John didn't want to be with her anymore, but she just wouldn't leave. Those kids don't have any reason to lie, right? They have no reason to lie. She has those crazy eyes, right? And everybody's like, you can't tell if somebody's guilty by their eyes. Shit. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Rest in bitch face, right? But listen, if I'm wrong, like I said, I'm not judging this woman because I'm not the judge and I'm not the jury. I'm just telling you my opinion in it and what I think is going to happen. I think she will be convicted and she's going to prison. Now, all the people that have supported Karen Reed, they will continue to support Karen Reed because they will continue to say she's innocent, right? If we're going to prison for rest in bitch face, we're all in trouble. Right? You're probably right there, right? I'll be looking mad. People be like, why are you mad, Dolly? I'll be like, man, I'm happy as shit. What are you talking about? That's just how I look. I mean, I get it, right? But it's something about the eyes, right? It's something totally about them eyes that in how, you know, every time Hank the Tank is running her over, she is looking back like with her head turned around like it's an Exorcist movie. And, you know, just the smirking at the family, it's horrible. And to see women, I'll get back to this video in a second. I got to say this. To see women defending somebody, that is so horrible. If this was a man accused of running a woman over, would y'all be so supportive? I don't think you would. I don't know what women see in this woman because she's not relatable. Okay. She's like a rich bougie woman that wouldn't piss on you if he was on fire. Okay. She's asking her supporters to skip meals and support the cause and help her fight for justice for John O'Keefe while she sits in a 5-star hotel room and eats meals that I can't even afford. Okay. Why the hell would poor people give rich people money? I just can't understand that. Now, if she was a soccer mom and she was working paycheck to paycheck and people were giving to her and thought she was innocent, I could understand it. But she's rich, her family's rich. She got paid for Netflix and she's getting paid for these documentaries. But women, little old women on fixed incomes, are giving her their money. Wow. And she takes it, happily takes it, right? Why she walks in with $3,000, $4,000 outfits on. My whole wardrobe, I'm wearing a t-shirt that says, I'm awesome like my daughter. And this was given to me, okay? My whole wardrobe probably ain't worth $1,000. Every piece of clothing I own, if you added it up, okay, together, ain't even $1,000. That's terrible. I dress like a bum, right? But she walks in her purse, her pocketbook costs more money than most people got in their bank accounts. But I don't understand it. Okay. I ain't a hater. I don't hate the woman. I just don't find her relatable. Like, I don't get it. Okay, let's get back to this video, then I'll discuss it a little bit more.
Take a look at your screen. Here is the order. Judge Beverly Cannoni writing this, quote, the defendant is precluded from raising a third-party culprit defense alleging Colin Albert is culpable for John O'Keefe's death. Goes on to say, but not prohibited from raising a third-party culprit defense as to Brian Albert and Brian Higgins. Counsel cannot mention potential third-party culprits in opening statements, but will be given the opportunity to develop a theory through relevant evidence at the trial. As you know, this is on the eve of when this trial begins. Tomorrow morning begins jury selection.
Whew. Wow. Thank you so much to Matt Johnson. Michael, I just have to mention, we were talking about why not Colin Albert.
Yeah.
I feel like
I find her very relatable. She's guilty, but she's relatable. How do you relate to this woman? I'm just, asking because I'm absolutely curious. Unless you drive a Lexus and you got a lot of money yourself, right? I look at her as kind of snobby, and the word I would use is bougie, right? She's just some bougie woman, like, and her persona of she thinks she's a rock star and she's signing posters of herself and shit. Like, woman, you're not famous, you're infamous. There's a difference. You need to look up the definition. I would think you're infamous. People know who you are because it's bad. It's like Casey Anthony. Would you consider Casey Anthony famous? I wouldn't. I would say she's infamous for killing her child. People know who she is because of her wrongs, not that she's great. Right? I think most people know who Karen Reed is because of the same concept. It's not fame. She's infamous. It is a no-brainer, such a waste of taxpayers and people's money. I want to understand what people see in Karen Reed. I truly do. I just have a hard time with it. Now, I'm not a rich guy. And so when I see people that are just like, I don't look at all rich people like they're pieces of shit, right? But when people act like they're better than you, or they put off that persona that just because they got money, they're above you or more superior or a better person than you. I don't like that. Okay. It ain't that I hate rich people and I'm jealous they got money and I don't. It's just, I don't like people that think they're better than you. I think we're all the same. We were created equal, right? And to me, she comes off as a person that thinks she's better than everybody. And just something about that leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
a good big piece of that is the fact the judge found there was no evidence suggesting that Colin Albert was at the home where John O'Keefe was found, and that kind of makes sense to me now.
Yeah, there was no evidence of that. Now, remember, the connection they had made was that Colin allegedly has some kind of argument with the victim in the case. And they also, which I thought was a really powerful piece of evidence in the case, showed a picture with friends where his knuckles were scraped.
That's true.
Suggesting that might have happened the night that this victim had died. So she has the benefit of having heard that testimony already. So you have to remember that as well in making this decision. I think, especially to Colin Albert, it's pretty big.
Yeah, I think so too. Absolutely.
All right, let's bring in our guest for this hour. Joining us, criminal defense attorney Josh Schiffer. Josh, great to see you as always. All from your travels. I've been following you on IG. Travels all around. I wish I was with you. But want to get your reaction to this judge's decision. A bit of a surprise for me. Honestly, you have to find some nexus between whoever you're going to allege. You can't just drag people through the mud for no reason. Here, it seems as though she found some evidence to suggest that there was motive, opportunity, and means for Brian Albert, Brian Higgins.
Heather Ann, I agree with you that the case wasn't the best, right? But to say there's corruption when there's no proof of corruption, just because you say there's corruption, don't mean there is. Was it a crap investigation? I would agree with you that, yeah, they did a shitty job. They could have done better, right? But I think they did the best they could with what they had at the time and what information they had at the time. Just because they did a crappy job investigating don't mean that there's corruption in that case. Now, are there bad police, Heather? Yes, there's absolutely bad police. I understand. Nobody wants police corruption. I'm against police corruption. You're probably against police corruption. But there's no proof of any police corruption in this. That's factual, okay? That's factual information. Now, if you could prove to me there was some type of police corruption, then I would say, okay, yeah, there is some corruption, and maybe there's bigger corruption. But you can go with the Sally Port thing, and should they have went into the house? Possibly so, but they had no evidence to point them to go into the house. There's no blood trail to the house. His body was outside. He had wounds that were consistent with being struck by a vehicle. Why would the investigation take you inside the house? Could they have done a better investigation? Absolutely. But because they did a poor investigation, does that make Karen Reed innocent? I think not. I think there can be a poor investigation and she can still be guilty. And by her own admissions, it sounds like she's guilty. Okay. And I've never seen so many people support a drunk driver. Okay. Usually everybody is against drunk drivers. Right? Like usually we fight against people, mothers against drunk driving, mad, right? Mothers, the key word mothers, that means females against drunk drivers. But yet all these women are defending a drunk driver. We can't take that off y'all acting like this woman was sober and was framed. We're talking about a woman that was drunk as a skunk, and there's no signs of police corruption. Bad investigation, yes, I'll give you that, right? But corruption, show it to me. The feds investigated. The feds didn't find any corruption. You can say corruption, just like you came in here and be like, shitty investigation and corruption. But I give you that. It was a shitty investigation. Corruption, I can't give you. The feds didn't find it. They didn't charge anybody with corruption. So we can't use that. Okay, you cannot use that. And you need to really sit back and think about it. I'm just trying to discuss with you. I ain't trying to be mean to you. Don't think I'm trying to pick on you or anything. But I'm just trying to say, just because people say there's corruption, don't mean there's corruption. Now, is there corrupt police? Absolutely. Is every police in the police force in Denham, Canton, Boston, are they all corrupt? Right, there ain't one good cop, not one good person there but Karen Reed. Come on now. Let's be honest. Let's be real. Okay? Let's use critical thinking skills. Is it wrong that she was drinking and driving? When you say something about drinking and driving, the first thing that comes out is, well, they were all drinking. Yeah, thousands of people drink a night. They ain't all run over John O'Keefe. Okay? There's only DNA on one car. Only one car has a broken taillight and damage to it, and it's Karen Reed's. So what does it matter if everybody in the whole state was drinking? They didn't run John O'Keefe over. The evidence points to that vehicle as the vehicle that struck John O'Keefe. So without any proof of corruption, if there's drugs, there's corruption, even when they let a fellow officer away with a DUI. Yeah, I don't think they should be drinking and driving, but there's levels to corruption, okay? Good old boy mentality is not quite the same as corruption. There's a little bit of a difference in it. Okay. And how do we know who was driving what vehicle and who was drinking and who wasn't drinking? All we know is what Karen had. She openly admitted to what she had to drink. How do we know that the other people were they drank beer? Okay. If you have 2 beers, you may be able to actually pass a breathalyzer. You have 6 doubles, you ain't passing nothing. You know what I'm saying? You ain't passing shit. We got to see what the jury says. That's exactly right. But I'm just trying to say, there's no evidence of corruption in the the whole police force. That all these people are bad. What about the first responders that heard her say, I hit him? Did I hit him? Could I have hit him? And how she was acting. They're lying too. The kids are lying. Everybody's lying but Karen Reed. Everybody is lying but Karen Reed. That's basically what your guys are saying, okay? And to me, and this is just my opinion, you guys could be right. I don't think you are, and that's my opinion. I think there's too much. There's too many moving parts for it to be a conspiracy.
But not Colin Albert.
It's great to be here, and thanks so much for welcoming me back. I couldn't be away for this one. This case, it just gets more interesting with each one of these rulings, because when you step back and look at this, y'all are right. This is a big hit for the defense, who had leaned very hard on the participation of Colin Albert, that Knuckles photo, as that nexus that Michael was just talking about. The state took a dramatic move in trying to preclude a defense before trial because they knew it was coming. And that's really smart. It's really aggressive, but it also set them up for a little bit of failure, because now the defense can fully swing on the two other McAlberts involved. And there's still the opportunity for Colin to come back in if that door is somehow open. It's just shut right now. And
that door has been slam closed. Okay, that door has been slam closed. They struck a blow to Karen Reed today. Okay, they've been striking blows to Karen Reed every day. So every motion hearing that's went through, it's been a blow to Karen Reed, a blow to Karen Reed, blow to Karen Reed, blow to Karen Reed, everything. And it's going to continue that path, because what happens in the dark always comes to light. All right. All the evidence points to her. No evidence points to anybody else. If you make up some good enough conspiracy, and that's what they're trying to do, is make up a story to get one of them jury members to believe it. And they're getting shot out the water like it's nothing. It's backwards. Karen Reed must be the best criminal ever if she did it. No cameras to see her tell. Like, she deleted the video from John O'Keefe's house. Let's remember that. Let's don't forget Sassy. She deleted the video. Perfect driving, unaliving her BF at high rating police officer's house. They were inside partying. Okay. So how often when you're inside your house partying are you staring out the window? Okay. Like me right now, I can't see what's going on outside my house. Somebody could be getting killed right now outside my house. I wouldn't know it. All right. I don't have a window that faces the front of my house because I'm in the back part of my house. So if somebody was getting murdered in my front yard right now, I wouldn't know. I'm here live with you guys, right? And unless you were staring out the window, and then maybe you would see something, right? But how many people sit around and stare out the fucking window at 1 o'clock in the morning? I don't. Do you? If you staring out your window, you might be a crackhead, okay? Peeking through the blinds all night long. I don't know. I'm just joking with you. But usually the only people staring out their window in the middle of the night are crackheads, okay? Usually they paranoid and they looking outside. But if you ain't a crackhead, you don't know what the hell is going on outside your house. That's just the truth, all right? That's just the truth. Especially when you have a house full of people, right? I mean, I'm saying, well, if you had a house full of crackheads, they would know what every neighbor was doing. They could tell you every sound that was made. But most people ain't looking out the damn window of their house.
And that clarifies kind of the pathway for the defense in how they structure their argument. Big win for the state in at least hamstringing the defense to a degree, but it's not over by a long shot. We're going to hear a whole lot about the McAlbert.
Yeah, the GPS says that John O'Keefe never went into the house. nor did his cell phone. No, his cell phone never moved from a certain time, and they're going to show that it was outside because of the temperatures of the cell phone. Okay, so I think that's going to say a lot, because a lot of these people want to use this Apple Health data, and I use the Apple Health data stuff on my watch because I use it to monitor my heart, and it has a thing on it. So if you fall, say I have I don't even want to say it, but if something medically happens to me and I collapse, it'll notify the police. It'll call for help. So over the last couple of weeks, I've been going to cardiac rehab for my heart. And what they do is they hook me to heart monitors, and I get on these machines, and I work out, and they monitor my heart rate, and all those things they do. I don't know exactly everything they do in that, but I know they're watching my heart, but my heartbeat, the rhythm of my heart, all these things. And my watch told me that I had went up all these stairs, but I never went up any stairs. I was actually riding an exercise bike. Okay, a bike. It don't even go up and down. But it was saying that I had went up all these flights of stairs. And I'm thinking, I didn't go up any stairs. I don't think it's very accurate. I mean, it's accurate to some point, but within a certain range. Also at the beach, it told me I had walked so far, and then, but if you look at the map, how far it is on GPS, it was different. So the Apple Health data, it's not a perfect science, but the GPS, I would say, is more accurate than the health data, okay, of where everything's been within a range too, so, and there's no blood trail to the house. There's no motive for them to kill John O'Keefe. Okay. And that's what makes me think, hey, she did it, like nobody else. And I just believe it was a tragic accident. But like I said, she was drinking. If she would have been sober, it would be manslaughter. Okay. I would say manslaughter. But since she was drunk and she shouldn't have been behind the wheel of a car, that makes it second-degree murder, which is 40 years in prison. I think she's done, but that's just my opinion on it.
Listen, I took it as a huge win for the defense because we didn't know what the judge was going to do, and I wasn't convinced that the judge was going to find the evidence of the motive, opportunity, and means to the extent that would make her say you can use any of these as a third-party defense. So it is a split ruling, but I think the defense can take this and run, developing the testimony like they did in the first trial to really make a jury think it could have been. And that's all that has to happen. One juror has to think it could have been one of those two, and she could then not be found guilty.
Yeah, but they're going to do such a good job of convincing you it's not them. There's no motive. There's no motive to kill John O'Keefe and for another police officer to lie and protect that police officer. There's no reason for that. So, no, she didn't win. That's that lady's opinion on it, right? That's a blow because they wanted to blame Colin. They can't even bring him in if the door gets open. So they bring something into play, and that has to be done by the prosecution. The prosecution knows better than that. Okay, they know there's certain things they're going to have to work around to keep Colin out of this, and that's exactly what they're going to do. You Hank the Tank got this. Okay, he had you. If you just been watching the motion hearings, you would know Hank the Tank is absolutely crushing. Right, it's crushing, like way better than Lally did. All right, Lally was a joke. Karen Reed supporters, I bet y'all were hoping Lally was going to retry it. Y'all wasn't expecting Whitey Bulger's lawyer to be the prosecutor. Okay, for you guys that didn't know, Hank the Tank was the defense attorney for Whitey Bulger. This dude knows his shit. When you ask other professionals about Hank Brennan, they say this dude is the real deal. He is the shit. That's what other lawyers say about Hank Brennan. Hank the Tank. All right. So they don't say that about Lowry. Okay. They don't say that type of shit about Lowry. I know about the what is it? Birchmore case. I know a little bit about it. I'm not 100% familiar with it. I know that the cop allegedly beat her to death, or the police killed her. I know some. I know more about the Karen Reed case. I know a little tiny bit more about that. But yeah, I heard about it. And blah blah blah. And they ain't got nothing to do with Karen Reed. They ain't got nothing to do with. It's two different things to me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Judge. And it is that, hook to hang your hat on. And we know the intensity of this case. Any juror that is selected for this trial is going to know the moment they go in, even if they've somehow not heard about this and are going to claim independence. But the intensity of these parties is palpable in such a small courtroom. You've got all the associated drama.
Look how Karen be looking. Just look at her face. Oh my God, that woman. She can't hide it. She cannot hide it. It's just
on the outside. And now the defense has its clarity. We know what the argument is. That is a giant win for them with this approval. But again, there's always another side of that coin, with the state being able to prepare their arguments in advance, knowing this is how the defense is going to structure their argument. They're not going to go rely on some of these other associated issues people have made a big deal about. We're going to hear direct allegations about third-party culprits causing the death of Officer John O'Keefe.
Yeah, but you can say third party all you want, but there's no proof to that. Okay? As a jury member, I'm going to want some proof that somebody else did it. Okay? If all evidence is pointing to Karen, you're going to have to prove to me that there's a reason somebody else would have killed John O'Keefe. And Karen trying to bang Higgins ain't a reason. Okay? Everybody acts like Higgins was madly in love with Karen. Karen was the one trying to bang him. John wasn't even dead in the ground yet, and she was texting Higgins, he's dead, right? Because she was trying to get a booty call. But all these women that support this cheater, what if that was happening to you, right? What if your man was doing that type of stuff to you? Would you be so supportive then? If this was a man and not a woman, oh my God, he'd been doomed. He'd have been doomed. There would be no women out there supporting no man that did the same thing Karen Reed did. Y'all overlook all her bad because they're screaming police corruption. It's horrible. It's horrible. To be honest, it's horrible. In my opinion.
I agree. All right, Josh, stand by. Michael, I have to mention this. I don't know if you've watched any of the new documentary where they follow the attorneys after court, and you get to hear fresh from the attorneys' mouths for Karen Reed what they thought about what just happened in court. Boy, would I love to have been able to hear what they thought after they received notice of this split ruling.
Look, at the end of the day, there's plenty of evidence involving Brian Higgins and Brian Albert in this one. Brian Higgins in particular, there's some weird stuff going on.
I agree.
So I think they still have enough ammunition to fight this case. So while it was, I think, a win, a win, like you said, for them in terms of, I think losing Colin Albert's a problem, but I think they'll be fine.
I think so too.
I would disagree with that. I think losing Colin Albert was their whole, what they plotted in the first one. Right? These people have no reason to kill John O'Keefe. And you got to prove it to 12 people that people without a reason had a reason to do it. That is an uphill battle. That is a very big uphill battle. And you got to do it against Hank the Tank. It's bad. It's pretty bad. And of course, in the title it says the case of Maddie Soto. That trial is coming up in August, September. If it don't get pushed back, it's looking early September-ish, right? And they're going to make it to where, you know, cameras will be allowed in the courtroom. They were trying to do away with cameras in the case, right? Also, I don't remember if y'all remember the other Soto person that was murdered. Y'all remember the other Soto case? That court case, I believe, starts tomorrow. Somebody hit me up and was like, Dolly, are you going to cover this case? And I didn't know it was starting so soon. Remember the pregnant girl that was with her boyfriend and they went to buy some weed and this young boy shot him, killed both of them, and then the dad came and cleaned up the crime scene? What was her first name? Savannah Soto. That's it. Thank you for Chihuahuas. It's Savannah Soto. And their trial, I believe, starts tomorrow for the parents of the young man that killed. And remember, they came and cleaned up the crime scene. They had it on video. Not good for them. Okay. So I'll figure out what's going on with that trial, and we may cover some of that. You know, speaking of the Maddie Soto case. And of course, I'm going to be live in Florida for Stephen Stearns, right? Because what he did to Maddie Soto is horrible. And the mother, of course. That's when I found you, Dolly. Awesome, right? When I was covering the Madeline Soto case. And then, of course, we had Maddie Soto, which is one of the most horrible things to ever hear. You know, in true crime, some of this stuff is just terrible. When you think you've seen the worst of the worst, you know, the Audrey Cunningham stuff was real bad. Y'all remember Audrey Cunningham, the little skinhead dude, put her in the river? He was living in the trailer behind. You know, you hear just such horrible things, right? And you think, man, this is the worst ever. And then you hear what happened to Maddie Soto, and you're like, oh my God. Okay. Oh my God. He was hurting this little girl since she was 8 years old, and maybe a little bit before that. You know, that was in December of 2023. God, how time flies, guys. How time flies. He was doing such horrible things to Audrey was in Texas. Yep, you're absolutely right. It's amazing I remember all these things. You know, I guess since I stopped smoking, my memory is a little bit better than it was. And definitely rest in peace to Maddie. This dude was a monster. And, you know, he's been blaming the mom a little bit. He's been complaining about being in jail and things like that. Listen, jail wasn't meant to be paradise, right? Are you covering the Karen Reed court? Yes, I will actually be there. Me and PJ will be there in person. You know, I went out to Boston 3 times during the last trial. Okay. Well, one time I was there, but I was more there to cover. I just went blank for a second. What case was I there for? The little girl that her daddy murdered or beat her to death. Why am I drawing a blank here? I'll think of it 1 second. Chris, I think is his first name Chris Harmony Montgomery. Chris Montgomery. Yeah, Harmony Montgomery. Thank you, guys. I went brain dead there for a minute. I knew it's New Hampshire, right? Harmony Montgomery. And her dad, you know, beat her to death at the light. So the first time I went out there, I was there to cover that case, the Harmony Montgomery case. And I just talked about how good my memory, Adam. I called him Chris, right? It's Adam, right? And his girl, I can't even remember her name now. Oh my God. I'll think of it in a minute. But thank you guys who have been helping me out here, right? Thank you guys. But I went up there to cover the Adam Montgomery trial. Kayla Montgomery. Thank you. Kayla, Adam, and, you know, the death of Harmony Montgomery. It's some of the most brutal stuff I ever seen in person. there was things that made me cry in the Adam Montgomery case. I think I'm pretty tough, but when they pulled out the ceiling tiles and you could see the stains and you could smell it, I couldn't help but tear up. It absolutely broke my heart. And the worst thing I've ever seen is live is what y'all didn't get to see in the courts for the Megan Boswell trial. When they showed that baby with its head inverted and rotten. Oh my God, it is the nastiest thing I've ever saw in my whole entire life. Okay. And so the first time I was up there, I was there to cover Harmony Montgomery, and then I drove to Fairview, went out to the court, but I wasn't there very long. And then the second time I went out for a few days, and then the third time I went out for a few days. And then it started snowing, and I was actually supposed to be there longer, but the snow got so bad that I was like, the hell with this. I'm getting the hell up out of here. Kayla and Leilani are twins. Yeah, they look so much alike. They did. It was bringing me back weird flashbacks. And Kayla's out. You know, she's out of jail right now. And she was pushing a dead baby around in a stroller through New Hampshire. The world is sick and crazy and twisted. And, you know, like I said, this dude in the Maddie Soto case, he was driving around with Maddie in the car dead. Like it was nothing, with her seat belted in. Like she's asleep in the car. She's like, what's the movie where they prop the dude up? Weekend at Bernie's. Y'all ever seen that movie? Where the dude's dead and they just make it act like he's alive and they're posing him and shit. He was basically driving around like Weekend at Bernie's with her in the car. You know, he was riding around and going places and shit. And then eventually he dumped her body. Harmony, Summer, and Maddie are the three that get me the most. I had to take breaks during Adam's trial. Yeah, you know, Adam's trial was something else. Okay. Leilani's trial was, you know, what I was there for was pretty bad. And Megan Boswell, oh my God, girl. Oh my God. That is the cold-bloodedest little young chick I've ever seen in my life. She was worse than Leilani. At least Leilani was on drugs. Okay. I ain't saying that's an excuse, right? But damn, it's this girl wasn't even on drugs or nothing. Just threw the baby in the trash, wrapped his head in aluminum foil, basically suffocated the baby, threw it in the trash. Who the hell does shit like this? I mean, it makes you lose a little bit of faith in humanity when you see these things. And I tell people all the time, when you get up here and talk about it, yeah, it's emotional. It saddens you. But when you're there in person and you realize how real everything is, because sometimes when you see things on YouTube, you start to get into it like it's a show, like it's TV. And let me tell you, it's not TV. Some of these things are painful, hurtful, like things you'll see and experience that you will never be able to get out of your mind. I will never forget when they pulled that ceiling tile out that you could smell death. I was trying to hold tears back and couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I was trying my hardest. I was like, you know, there's all these damn cameras. Like, people going to be posting me on clip channels in court crying, right? But I don't really care. You know, it is what it is. How could you see this and not cry? If you did, you're fucking heartless. Okay. Cause this was traumatic. Like, it's one of those things that when you walk out of that courtroom, you walked out with a scar. TV, you see it. You don't smell it. You know, like, I was looking at the jury cry. All right. Then I didn't feel so bad about crying. I was like, grown ass men crying. Police officers, like, they were walking around handing out handkerchiefs to people. That's how many people started crying at that moment. When they opened that shit up, oh my God. Oh my God. There's just no explaining it. It'll stick with me forever. Some of these true crime things, they scar you. Like they literally take a piece of you away. Like, and I think it's bad because you can only deal with so much of that for your own sanity, right? Because this ain't the normal thing that you see in your day-to-day life. Is tragic event after tragic event after tragedy. It takes a toll on you. For anybody that wants to come into true crime, you better be prepared for that. Like, there's a lot of heartache that comes in with true crime. If you're a decent human being, okay? If you're a caring, loving person, oh my God, it's so bad. It is so bad. Like, I try to warn people because there's so many people that, watch and be like, oh, I want to do a true crime channel. You gotta be mentally prepared for this. But I think doing it, you get a little better at it. But at certain points, you can never get prepared enough, right? If you think you're not going to get Dolly, my favorite pastime, thank you for being a member, Sweet Leaf, 24 months. It's 2 damn years. If you think you're not going to get emotional or attached, or it's not going to affect you, that's where you're wrong. That's where you'll make your first mistake. Okay, you have to respect death. I know it could happen to any of us at any time, but when it's done to a child, right? Like, I was going to volunteer as a paramedic, and the reason I didn't do that is because, listen, you can be a grown man and you can have your head cut in half, and I can deal with it. I won't break a sweat, nothing. A little kid gets a scratch or a cut, I can't take it. I could not perform to the best of my abilities with a child. And that's the only reason I didn't volunteer to be a paramedic. Is because you can volunteer here where we're at. And most of the paramedics have volunteered. I cannot handle a hurt kid. It takes a special type of person to be able to deal with tragic events of small kids, that them people are heroes. Okay, I look at them people like the best of the best. Like, I can't do it. I can absolutely not do it. I would panic, and it wouldn't be good for me. It wouldn't be good for the person that's hurt. But for the people that can do these life-saving measures on little kids, you guys are angels, heroes to me. Like, I hold you in the highest regard that I can hold anybody, because I know that I can't do it. I can't do it. Now, you a grown man with your legs cut off and missing half. I can deal with you. I wouldn't panic. I would do what I needed to do to help you. I can't do that with a kid. I just can't. I don't know what the difference is, but there's a difference. There's a huge difference. So, but to get back on track is, we need some justice for Maddie Soto, and justice to me for the Maddie Soto case, is to keep shortening this up a little bit, is Jen Soto going to jail? They made a deal with the devil. All right, Florida. I don't know why y'all did that. There was so much evidence against Stephen Stearns that you didn't need to make a deal with the devil, right? Could you imagine being the first responders that found Maddie Soto? They'll never sleep right at night. Never. Could you imagine? Now listen, I've found dead people. Okay, I have. I found 2 dead people. I've seen people killed in front of me. I watched a dude get stabbed to death right in front of me. Anybody ever experienced that? I was at a party, dude got stabbed to death right directly in front of me. I was sitting on the couch, watched it. Brutal. One of the most brutal. And I was probably, I don't know, what's 15 years old? 15, 16 years old? I found 2 dead people. I was behind a vehicle going down the interstate, and the car lost control, spun out in front of me into the next lane over, and an 18-wheeler smashed it head on. I pulled over to try to help the person. Their head was smashed in. Brutal. I mean, just absolute brutal. I have seen some horrible, horrible things. Horrible. Like just unimaginable things. Another thing I seen a dude with a piece of glass stuck through his eyeball in a car accident in front of me. I stopped to try to help him. And the guy had a shard of glass stuck right through his damn eyeball. Just some of the most horrible, brutal shit you could see. So, I mean, I don't know if people have experienced that, but them are things that stick. Like I said, these things stay with you forever. They never, them monsters never leave. Okay, they're always there. They're always in the back of my mind. Them people, every last one of them, they're always there. They never leave. So I pray to God that none of y'all ever have to experience anything like that. You know? The dead people I found, I thought they were asleep. They wasn't asleep. They were gone. But that was drug related. They had did some drugs and died. And I stumbled across them. Dead. Horrible. That was horrible too. That was just not good. Like, just a bad day. Like, I mean, it was good for them that they were found, you know, because who knows how long they would have been there. But for me, I'll never forget what they look like. I still see their face to this day. So it's like, you know, it's one of those things that come with it. You know, I wasn't even doing true crime then, you know. So I don't know why they made a deal with the devil. I don't, you know, in the Maddie Soto case, I'll never understand that. I wish Florida would do better and would convict both these people, because I believe Jen Soto needs to have life in prison. And of course, Stephen Stearns, he needs to be executed quickly, not 20 years from now, you know. And speaking of 20 years from now, the Idaho 4, this case has been moving along slow, right? Because I'm trying to speed this up a little bit because it's getting late. And I just wanted to cover everything that I had on the board tonight. Brian Kohlberger, man, they treat this dude like he ain't a criminal. You know what's so crazy is they treat this dude is, you know, the camera can't be on him. Let's move the court case. It seems like he has more rights than the people he killed. It just drives me crazy that, you know, and he's been pushing everything back and delaying things. And, you know, if he was innocent, wouldn't he be trying to move things along? When is Karen's trial? Court jury selection starts tomorrow, Jamie, and they're expecting jury selection to take up to a month. So court may not start to May. But I don't think it's going to take that long. Like I told PJ, I was like, they expect it to take a month, but it may run smoother than that. They may have a jury in a week. 2 weeks, you know, as soon as they pick that jury, it starts. So, but they're calling for at least a month is what they're saying, but who knows? And like, you know, the whole Brian Kohlberger thing, you know, all this delaying does is keep him alive longer, because he's facing the death penalty too. You know, and it seems like he has more rights than the 4 people that he brutally murdered. And I know there's still some people out there that think Brian Kohlberger's innocent, which is, to me, is crazy. You know, they have DNA. They have him buying the knife and the knife sheath, and he don't have an alibi. And the DNA is really damaging. Okay. So, and my thing is, they treat Brian Kohlberger's so good, but remember Richard Allen? I truly believe Richard Allen is innocent. And I know it don't say nothing about the Delphi up here, but they had this man shackled in a prison cell in solitary confinement before he was even convicted. Okay. And I do believe they convicted the wrong man. And you look at the difference between him and Brian Kohlberger. They don't treat Brian Kohlberger like that. You don't see him shackled up in prison in a solitary confinement by himself. I believe they violated every right they could of Richard Allen's. But Brian Kohlberger, they treat him like he ain't do shit. He committed the brutalest murder of the last 10 years. Okay? Name something worse than that. I mean, he went in the house and murdered ain't nobody did them shit like that since like Ted Bundy. Right? I'm just saying, it was bad. It was brutally bad. And this dude is like, we just give him everything he wants, right? And where's justice in our world? Okay, where's the damn justice? Dolly, didn't they throw out the knife sheath? No. No, now they proved that he got it, that he ordered it. No, they ain't throwing none of that shit out. It's justice for me can't come fast enough. And you know I'm an eye for an eye kind of person. You take a life, I think you deserve to lose your life. Unless it was an accident. Okay, if it was an accident, accidents happen. I do think you need to pay the punishment for the accident, especially if the accident's your fault. You're at fault for the accident. I think you need to pay the price, but maybe not lose your life. When you purposely take somebody's life, your ass shouldn't be here. And I heard that Trump, and I don't try to make anything political here or anything like that, but I hear Trump's trying to bring back the death penalty across the board. Right? And I think murder should be a federal crime. You murder somebody, you get the death penalty no matter where you're at in the United States. I know Trump is trying to pass, if you're an illegal immigrant and you come here and you murder somebody, you get the death penalty. Now, as an eye for an eye, and I believe in capital punishment kind of person, I agree with that. Okay, I don't agree with everything Trump does or nothing, but I agree with that. Because, I live in a state that abolished the death penalty, Virginia. We were number 2 behind Texas in executing people. But with Muhammad, they brought Muhammad here. They executed him with under 3 years. Virginia don't play. We were strapping people up and sending you to the heaven's gates quick, or to hell, wherever wherever it took you, wherever the spirit world took you. Virginia didn't play. Now, Virginia is a safe haven for criminals. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. If you kill me, you're going to do life in prison here in Virginia. That's it. The hell with that. You kill me, I want you dead beside me. Okay? And we can be in the same damn graveyard, but I want to look over and see you there. Not sitting in jail watching cable TV, going to school, getting a degree, working a job. I won't be able to do that. Okay? I don't think Brian Kohlberger should be able to sit in jail for the next 20 years. I say when they find you guilty within 3 years, they give you a chance to appeal. Right? You get the right to appeal. And then when you lose that next appeal, they take your ass out back. And you're done. Look, remember Saddam Hussein? Who watched the trial of Saddam Hussein? Anybody remember that? When they handed him over to the Kurds? Anybody remember that? He told the judge, he said, you have no authority over me. I'm the leader of a state. Now, anybody remember that? Me? You watched it, Sassy? They convicted Saddam Hussein. They walked him out the back door of jail, and they walked him to the gallows with people spitting on him. Right? Remember weapons of mass destruction? Weapons of mass. Anybody remember that? The man was in a hole with a damn AK-47. Didn't have no weapons of mass destruction. None. Not nothing. Right? Okay. But they walked him out back, spit on him, and hung him. Right there. Right then. terrible. I mean, damn, the most barbaric shit you could ever watch for everybody to see. For everybody. They handed this man over to his enemies. Okay? Handed him to his enemies for them to hang him. That was brutal. That's that. Do I agree with Saddam Hussein? Oh, hell no. Hell no. But even for me, I was like, that is some brutal shit right there. Okay? But when you do that, when you do things like that for people to see it, public executions, that's George Bush doing Saddam. It stops other people. Okay? Because you can be like, shit, I don't want to end up like Saddam. Right? What leader would have wanted that to happen to him? Right? And then, you know, we see what happened to Gaddafi. Right? For anybody that follows these world events. And, you know, at some point, Gaddafi was not always an enemy to the United States. To watch him get beat in the head and shit, it's just like, oh my God. Right? Oh my God. So I believe, though, that if you bring back these public executions and you execute people swiftly, less people are likely to commit the same crime. All right? That's just what the point that I want to get at. And hopefully Brian don't sit on death row for 20 years. Same thing with Stephen Stearns. Now, Karen Reed, like I said, that's debatable, right? But I think it's way more debatable than Brian Kohlberger and Stephen Stearns. We kind of know what needs to happen to them. Karen Reed, a little bit up for debate. Bin Laden, do you know? I know the dude. Well, I hung out with the dude. I ain't his best friend or nothing. From SEAL Team 6 that was on the helicopter that carried Saddam Hussein's body back. Right? You gotta remember, I'm in Virginia, right here where SEAL Team 6 is at. And I was partying with this dude on the beach. And we were talking conspiracy stuff. We were talking about the Aurora, the airplane, the anti-gravity airplane. He said it don't exist. He said I'm a conspiracy nut. Basically what he said. And I asked him, I said, well, why didn't we see Osama bin Laden be dumped at sea? Why was there no, why is it so hush where he was dumped at sea, and why would they just dump him at sea? And he told me, he said, look, man, I was on the helicopter. He was on the second helicopter. He wasn't on the one that crashed. He was on the second helicopter. And what they have is a camera that has facial recognition. Okay. So when they brought Osama to the helicopter, he took these pictures. And these pictures, even though he was shot in the head, he said his head a big fucking, he was describing it. And he said, this, all the conspiracy stuff he told me about. He said, I can tell you this. Osama bin Laden is dead. He said, I can guarantee you that on everything, that he is fucking dead. He said, I witnessed it with my own eyes. He is the dude that actually took the pictures of Osama bin Laden on the second helicopter. They loaded him into the second helicopter. And they took these pictures. And when you take these pictures, it has facial recognition. And it was sending the pictures to the Pentagon. Okay, so that's how they knew it was Saddam, that they actually had him. And because at the time they shot him, they thought it was him. Okay, they were pretty sure it was him, but they wasn't 100% positive that it was him until these pictures were taken with this certain camera they got. And this camera broadcast, and it sends these signals. It's like some high-tech ass fucking camera. And he was like, I am the one that was on the helicopter. Because he never was in combat. He never got off the helicopter. He never went in and shot anybody, any of that stuff. He was on the rescue helicopter that came in after the first helicopter crashed. And he told me, he said, I can tell you now, he's dead as shit. And we're sitting around by a fire drinking beer. And this dude is legit. I'm on the base with him at the beach. Okay. He's the one that got me on the base. Him and his wife and her friend. We went and seen some concert together. I think it was Slipknot. Might have been Slipknot. Slipknot and who else was it? I don't know. It was a bunch of bands at the amphitheater. And the amphitheater sits right down the street from the naval base. So I was hanging out with them drinking, and then we went back to the base and we was hanging out on the beach. And because the base is on the beach. So we sat out there drinking, and I just started going into conspiracy stuff, you know, mostly about the airplane. And he said that it didn't exist because SEAL Team 6, they train on all the latest technology of top secret weapons, right? Because at that point, we didn't even know they had unmanned helicopters at the point that Saddam was killed. So he says that if there's weapons, that they send him to special training for all these different types of weapons. And that he didn't believe that it was real, right? And then I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, all the way up until the 90s, the stealth bomber was top secret, right? It was top secret. Nobody knew about it. Everybody kept reporting it as UFOs, but it was the stealth bomber. I said, when they released something, did they stop working on top secret weaponry? And he said, no, I don't think so. I think they continue to create things, right? And he said that out of his own mouth. I said, well, what makes you think that if the stealth bomber is not top secret no more, that they don't have a top secret plane, right? And he said, well, you know what? He goes, you could be right. He said, but let me tell you this. If it is real, it's not active yet. He said, because if it was an active plane in the military, he would know about it and have training on it. But he didn't say it couldn't exist. He just said that it was an active military plane that was being used in combat. Okay. If it was being used in combat, he would know about it. That his clearance is that high in the military that he would know if it was actively being used. And he said it won't. Okay. Has anybody ever heard of the Aurora? It's supposed to be an anti-gravity aircraft that can fly around the world in 3 hours, circle the planet in 3 hours. Anybody ever heard of it? There's people that cover, you can look it up on YouTube, right? Look it up on YouTube. There's people that have heard these sonic booms. And you know, when you break the sound barrier, there's this one big boom it makes, like boom, right? And people are able to record planes when they break the sound barrier. Well, there's something that's breaking the sound barrier, but it's breaking it differently. It's breaking it in a consecutive booms, like boom, 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 right? There's these 3 booms, and there's all these like people that believe that this plane exists, and they're recording it, right? Because a regular plane it's breaking something else, right? It ain't just breaking the sound barrier, it's breaking something else, right? And they're trying to figure out what it is. And you can probably find a ton of videos on that on YouTube, but there's something flying around in the sky. And now look, you see all these people reporting UFOs because basically an anti-gravity aircraft can do what a UFO does. So a lot of people don't even believe there's real UFOs, that what we're seeing in the sky is U.S. military technology that is anti-gravity. And so if you get into looking at like Lockheed and Boeing and people that make planes, all their scientists are working on anti-gravity. All of them. Every last single one of them. Every scientist that works for them is anti-gravity. And they're doing this they're trying to do this in commercial planes, right? So, and you know that the military, all right, military technology is 20 to 50 years more advanced than what we have as a consumer. So the military technology is 20 years in the future, 20 to 50 years in the future before we will even see it as a consumer. Like smartphones and shit, they had that shit back way back. Okay. We're just now starting to see these things. So, is there already anti-gravity aircrafts? I know that's a lot off topic, but I just wanted to touch on that. All right. Maybe I'll do a little more on that one day. I'll pull up some of the evidence that shows that this shit is real or possibly real. But I'm going to get ready to hit the bed. You guys have been awesome. I will talk to y'all later. And remember this, if nobody else loves you, Dolly does. Peace.